Hi, I'm Jeff Van Gundy, and you're listening to Thunderbus.
Welcome to Thunderbus with your host Watson and Bones.
I'm Watson.
And I'm Bones.
We get serious about the Thunder on this podcast.
But we don't get too serious.
You know we don't get too serious because we just took some shots of tequila.
Yeah. We're partiers.
Let me tell you.
Dude, we party so hard before this pod. It gets dirty.
We didn't get to have a spring break this year, so you got to shoot tequila in your own home.
Dude, I wasn't going to say anything, but I'm also drinking beer right now.
Hey, I'm drinking a rosé Angry Orchard. That's
God.
how I roll.
Man, I see some people, they settle down after college, but this guy, he keeps partying, man.
Nothing says party like a rosé Angry Orchard.
Man, making my cheeks rosé, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, those were uncomfortably big shots. They were like at least a shot and a half. And I'm still choking on it, to be honest.
Yeah, it was unintentional. But
I wasn't going to say who poured the shots.
it was difficult to get down.
So on today's show, we are going to give grades to all the Thunder players for how they did this season, because it looks like the season probably is not going to continue. At least there will be no more regular season games.
No, yeah, it's done.
So we can now look back and reflect on how did this season go.
Right.
So we just arranged the players in alphabetical order by last name, so that it's not predictable at all. Like, oh, they're going to have all the best guys at the front, all the worst guys at the back. It's all going to be spread out.
And there's some variance, too, If you're listening to this, you're not going to hear all of the starters get graded at once. No discrimination, except in the long term if a system consistently uses alphabetizing orders. Like from kindergarten to senior year for me, my last name starts with C, and I was in the front of the line a lot.
My last name starts with W, and I've never recovered from that hit to my self-worth.
So do you, kind of hate me a little bit because my letter's up there?
That's not the only reason.
Okay. Well, I just want to get to the bottom of this.
We'll talk off the pod.
Okay, cool.
So first up, Steven Adams. Name starts with A. A is the first letter of the alphabet in every alphabet I'm aware of.
Well, guess what? This guy's got he's number one in the league with the alphabet.
Really?
I think so, yeah. Steven Adams. If you go to Basketball Reference, boom, first guy.
Would not have been the case if we still had Alex Abrinas. May he rest in Spain.
Yeah, or Steven's arch nemesis, Steven Adams.
Right.
Okay, I was
Steven.
He
Steven
doesn't
Adams.
exist. Yeah, he doesn't exist. I'm just kidding.
He's like Steven Adams, but he doesn't have any of the cool hair. He's just got a buzz cut and he's clean shaven.
Yeah, and instead of an accent, he's just got a lisp. Steven Adams.
I hate this guy.
Exactly. That's why he's the coolest guy's arch nemesis.
So what was your grade for Steven Adams?
So I'm going to give Steven Adams an A- for this season.
Interesting.
So this was the first season.
I gave him a B+. So not far away.
Hey, there we go. A little high five, but we ain't touching.
Yeah, high elbow.
First season in a while, he looked pretty healthy consistently, and it was it was a joy to see that. And we kind of got to see more than spurts of athleticism from Steve, and he meshed very well with Chris Paul. And the reason I didn't give him an A+ is because I wanted to see him be more aggressive in the paint. I wanted him to really work on his offensive game, which, you and I had talked about. Maybe this is the season Adams breaks out his moves. And, it didn't really happen. He only averaged 11 points a game. And, I think it's just a little frustrating. It's not even frustrating, but it's like you wish he really improved in the paint, because if he elevates there, the Thunder are like damn near unstoppable. So yeah, Steven Adams, A-.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I do think that I am giving more weight to the frustration that we've had with him, because we just didn't see that development that you were speaking about. And going into the season, we especially thought that was going to be necessary because of the absence of Russell Westbrook and Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, there's all this usage out there, and I'm going to refer to usage probably a lot in this podcast.
Good.
There's all this usage out there. We need guys who are going to take the shots, make buckets. And Steven Adams has always been an efficient scorer at, reasonable volume. The last 2 years, he's averaged 14 points a game. And we've seen those skills. We were expecting him to take that next step. Now, he has made progress in a lot of areas, but he hasn't increased his volume and he hasn't increased his aggressiveness, like you were saying.
Right.
But I think he's improved on the margins in a lot of ways. So he has had the second highest free throw percentage of his career.
Yeah, and especially in the second half of the season, it
Right.
started really looking good.
Last couple months, he was really coming on, which I think correlated with his improved health. But he shot 59% from the line this year. Still not a great mark, but you want to see that number going up rather than down, and that's what we're seeing.
Something like that would prevent Hacka Steve.
Exactly. Now, his points per game were down. So if you're just looking at the raw numbers, I think he averaged 3 fewer points per game this year than last. But if you look on it on a per 36 minutes basis, it's the same. He's just playing fewer minutes now than he used to, which is good.
Yeah, that's what we want as Thunder fans.
Especially because Noel has proved pretty capable, but we'll get to him later.
In, baby.
Steven Adams' assists nearly doubled on a per 36-minute basis, which we've talked about. He's had a career high in assist-to-turnover ratio, and it's by a mile.
Okay, yeah.
He has 1.64 assists per turnover this year, whereas his previous career high was 0.92. So every previous year, he's had more turnovers than assists. This year, 50% more assists than turnovers.
I would argue also correlates with health.
Possibly, but also having a more open offense and more ball movement and player movement.
Mm-hmm. It's a perfect storm.
But his assist turnover ratio also was 4th highest on the team. And career high
that's good.
Rebounding percentage. Rebounding percentage is the amount of available rebounds that one player consumes.
Okay.
10 players on the floor at any one time. You would expect the average player to get 10%. But he's had a career high in that number.
Interesting. I'll be honest. I've never heard of rebounding percentage.
It's a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, when you lay it out in the definition, I'm like, yeah, of course that is important. But I've never heard of that stat.
But I do discount him a little bit. This is why I got the B+, is he did have a fairly high dud rate. Like, he had a few games that were just, duds. He didn't show up.
Yep.
He didn't score. He was kind of a ghost out there. And you need to, basically not have any or many of those if you're going to get an A from old Watson over here.
Let me ask you this. Did you base that off of memory, or were you really digging for these, game-by-game numbers? Did you see some outliers out there?
I dug into the game by game a little bit, but not too hard, because my memory was I felt confident in my memory of this. You and I have discussed it. I've heard it discussed on podcasts like Down to Dunk, where they're talking about, Steve just didn't show up last night. And there were definitely games where that was the case. I saw some games where he was I think there were at least 5 games where he scored 6 or less.
Mm.
And like I think there were at least another 5 games where he had a plus minus of -10 or more.
Steve, my
So-
boy.
He's got games where he turns in a dud.
Right.
But overall, great season from Steve.
Yes. Yeah.
You want more?
I mean, just honestly, seeing him healthy was enough for me to, like, associate my happiness with his presence. So I was like, oh, A, of course. I didn't even think about a B. You know, I was actually gonna justify why I didn't give him just a flat A. But hearing the B plus, I don't know, it opens up some new avenues of thought. But I like that. I like everything you said. But just wait until I hate it. I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll hate the grade that I have for Darius Bazley.
Give it to me.
So I gave Darius Bazley a B. Now, this is a good time to clarify. We're grading on a curve, right? We're grading versus expectation.
What? Yeah, I was gonna ask you. What is your criteria? Like, what is just? Are you basing it off of your own perceived expectation of this player?
Yeah.
And that kind of includes their maybe past performances, and I guess what I'm asking is how are you grading like rookies and someone like Steven Adams differently here? But
it's all based on expectation. So with Darius Bazley, when he was drafted, we all said, "Who?"
Yeah, we said, "Say what?"
Some intern, right? There was the intern joke.
Mm-hmm.
But we were all surprised when he got minutes in the preseason. Like I think he got something like the 4th most minutes on the team in the preseason, and we were flabbergasted.
Yeah. I struggle to remember, but yes.
Darius Bazley, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think he spent any time with the Blue this season. We all thought he was going to be on the Blue like 75% of the time.
Yeah, we thought he was going to continue to be an intern.
Precisely. But he played consistent minutes for us, a solid part of the rotation. Started 8 games, and we were 7-1 in those games.
Yep.
So, based on that, you would say, oh, A+, But the stats are not pretty. He shot 38% from the floor, 30% from 3, 68% from the line.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're going to clean that up, right?
Yeah, no, I will. Just after we record this.
It's that shot, I'm telling you. He started off hot from 3. He was 39% in October, November, but since then, 25% from 3.
Jeez.
But, he's given lots of good energy. He's bought in, blocked shots, played pretty good defense,
yeah.
moves his feet.
Not bad.
So I say B. What do you got?
I got C+, which is pretty close to B. I mean, it's, in the range.
That's what I told my parents when they saw my report card.
Yeah, right after my dad threw the ketchup bottle across the house.
He said, "Son, you got to catch up to my expectations for your academic performance."
Yeah, he snuck a little pun in there.
He's a dad. He's what he does.
So I gave Bazley C+. So like good things about Bazley is throughout the season, and let me just say this first of all. I sort of forgot about the early season expectations, or might I say preseason expectations with Bazley. But throughout the season, I noticed signs of growth and like intelligence with the guy, and that manifested itself through his like will to find a way to score when he was out there. Like he was always looking to get the ball in the hole. And that I just loved because players like Ferguson, who we'll get to, they don't have that. And so seeing that killer instinct from him was very promising, and it made me excited about the guy, and it also made me excited about him because he's an athletic freak. And
who could guard a lot of people on defense.
yes, and I think he has a fairly high ceiling, if I'm being honest. I just think that there are a lot of motor functions he needs to improve on. One of them being a defensive intuition. If that, I don't know, that might not actually make sense since intuition is something you're born with.
I think that makes sense.
But he could be an elite defender if he really wanted to be. But also ball handling, shot release, and passing. All of these things, if he improves on, we see him get more minutes and, maybe become a starter in the next few years.
Yeah, he's a willing and capable passer, obviously.
Yeah.
What he has to improve on is just his ability to read the floor. The game's got to slow down for him. But I expect him to make great strides in that area whenever the next season starts.
Yeah. You'd love to see that. And I don't see why not. Like I said, it seems like he did improve on things throughout the season. But yeah, once he just raises the bar in all of these categories, it's like, man, we got a pretty solid player on our hands.
Absolutely.
You want to move on to Deontay Burton?
Lego head man.
Dude, okay, so this is the only player that I didn't type anything down. I didn't even give a grade for because
He's
just like
gradeless.
He is kind of gradeless.
How embarrassing.
He averaged 8 minutes per game, and I'm not going to give him an F based off of those 8 minutes. But if a player is getting 8 minutes in the NBA, then by comparison, you feel obligated to give them an F. But I'm going to give him an F.
Wow. Okay, well, this might be the one that we're farthest apart on. I mean, I don't think I was generous to him.
Well,
I gave him a C.
A C. Well, here's the thing.
Ooh, I am definitely feeling that shot. I just sat up in my chair and I was like, woo.
No, I get it. Burton just has shown, like Bazley, signs of athleticism, and there are things he definitely can do. And I would say last year, watching him, I thought if he could optimize these things and take away some of these other bad parts of his game, or just like improve on the ones that are necessary, like, I don't know, decision making, then he would get more than 8 minutes per game. But that doesn't seem to be the case, and I just don't see him out there enough to really develop a solid opinion about the guy. So that's why, and maybe that's harsh, but you get an F, Burton. Go ahead.
That's fair. I mean, he was a rookie for us last year. You would expect to see some growth there. And we didn't see growth. All his stats were static or went down. His offensive grading decreased by 11 points.
There you go.
Which is huge. And like the main thing that drove that, I would say, is probably his 3-point percentage. He went from hitting 30% last year to 22% this year, which is worse than, that guy that we had on the Thunder for a long time.
Durant.
It is worse than Durant. That's true.
That's why we call him a bitch, right? Because he was so bad at shooting threes.
That's the only reason. But yeah, he like last year, Burton played 15 minutes or more in 5 games, and we won all of those games. And I think we all remember that game against Portland in February of 2019.
Game of the century.
He played really well in that game. He really contributed. And that was the kind of game that you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a glimpse of what this guy could be.
Oh, yeah.
But he never played up to that level at any point during this season. I think a favorable interpretation of Burton's performance this season would be that he met his performance level last year. But I think a more realistic interpretation is that he actually regressed slightly.
Yep.
And that's That's a problem.
Well,
you know,
some
the
could
dude's 26.
some could say sophomore slump, but usually that term is granted on those who had a great rookie season or a really good one. So sophomore slump may it be, but not good timing, Deontay.
And there aren't a lot of 26-year-old sophomores.
Yeah, that is also true. There are like guys who are in their 5th or 6th season in the league who are 26, 7th.
This is a true story. It has nothing to do with basketball. When I was going to school at Northeastern State University, Riverhawk, NSU. There was a guy in my freshman survey class, which I was taking as a junior because I was a history minor, my freshman survey class of U.S. history in fall of 2012, who had started college in 2006. And he was in a freshman class in 2012.
Wow, pre-recession. Like some kind of freak.
Yeah.
He'd seen it all.
I was like, what is this guy doing?
Yeah. It's like this.
And he had transferred to NSU from Ole Miss.
Wow, what a life.
Yep.
Man, he almost saw Eli Manning play.
That's true. Eli Manning graduated in 2004. This guy, there was one academic year between Eli Manning and this guy.
Oh, yeah. The spirit of Eli still resided on that campus.
I watched an SNL skit with Eli Manning in it the other day, and it was actually pretty funny.
Those Mannings got good comedic timing.
They do.
Yeah. Peyton's not on commercials for no reason, man.
But Eli's not in commercials. I just kind of assumed Eli didn't have a soul.
He's just modest.
True. He gets in the Super Bowl. He lets his defense win the Super Bowl for him against my Pats both times.
Yeah. But make some crazy passes along the way.
Let's not talk about that. What's your grade for Hamidou Diallo?
Oh, Diallo. How about a C-?
Ooh, I had a C+.
Ooh, wow. Okay, so here's the thing. I put a C- thinking, Watson's going to give him a D+. And I don't know why I thought that, but I'll tell you why we have pretty much, well, I guess, no. We have sort of similar grades, but I gave him a C- because he was looking very promising at the beginning of the season. He was looking like he had definitely improved on all levels, especially did I say especially? Especially 2-point.
As long as you don't say especially, you're excused.
Especially. That's not a word. He started taking jump shots and started making them towards the beginning of the season. And that was like a whole new development of his game. And so it was like, oh, man, he really is trying to score. And we knew that, with his crazy layup attempts or like fadeaway jumpers while he was getting fouled and falling to the ground and making them, we're like, okay, this guy can like somehow get the ball in the hole. But seeing the jump shots was like promising. And then we were at the game. He got injured. He hurt his elbow.
Against the Lakers.
Hyperextended his arm, I think.
LeBron did it. LeBron did it to him.
Oh, that's right. Ooh, man. I just had a flashback of the replay, and it did really look painful. But after injury, he played like doo-doo. He just played bad. I don't know.
Hamidou Diallo?
Yeah. Hamidou Diallo post-injury. What do you have grade-wise?
Well, I gave you my grade. I gave
that's right.
A C+. I largely agree. His stats were mostly static as well, but his assist to turnover rate actually went down, which I would say is an indictment of any player if they're playing with this year's Thunder team versus last year's Thunder team and their assist to turnover goes down. It's easier to have more assists when your team has a more wide open player movement, ball movement system.
Yep.
Which is why I think pretty much every returning player from last year had their assist to turnover ratio go up, but he's the exception. I agree with you. Early in the year, he looked improved. He was really bringing that energy off the bench. And that was at a time when our rotations were not really figured out.
And he wasn't coming off the bench and like immediately turning it over.
Yeah, like we got a boost when he was off the bench.
Yeah.
I remember thinking at times, we need to get Diallo in here right now.
For sure.
So hopefully he returns to that in the future. But you're right. When he came back from the injury, he was rookie Diallo again. And he's still...
Maybe worse.
He's still a really bad shooter. Last year, he shot 17% from 3. This year, he shot 20%. I mean, that's bad enough that you just shouldn't be shooting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when he was trying to get back after injury, nothing looked like it should have been. Like, it should have been there. Any shot that he took, any move that he tried to make, it seemed out of place, unnatural, and it was like, man, this guy needs some rehabbing. I don't want to have to say the blue, but maybe you got to get him some more minutes where he's more comfortable. I don't know.
Now, I will say that he plays pretty good defense, and during the season, he seemed to develop a synchronicity with Chris Paul on the pick and roll, which I liked. I like seeing that. You know, we're in the era of positionless basketball, where anyone can run a pick and roll from either position. You know, we saw the team running inverted pick and rolls this year, where Chris Paul, the one man, was setting a screen, and Steven Adams, the 5-man, was the ball handler.
Yeah.
So you can do any combination now, and like stuff like that works because 5s are not used to guarding the ball handler in a pick and roll scenario, right?
Right.
And there were times when Diallo would set the pick in a pick and roll, and with his athleticism, like he opened up perfectly. And I mean, I don't know what the data is on the points per possession when Diallo ran a pick and roll as the screener, but my memory is that play always worked.
Yeah.
So if we could involve him in more actions like that, you know, maybe have some small ball units where he's playing the 3 or the 4, we can get away with that some more. Like, he was really good at that. So he has skills that we can develop and exploit. And I want to give him credit for doing well in those narrow areas that he was successful in this year. But I didn't see the next step from him that we would have wanted. It was kind of a repeat of his rookie season on a 10,000-foot scale.
Yep. So you give him C+, I give him C-.
I do think he helped us at times.
Yes. More so earlier in the season.
Who do you think was more impactful, Diallo or Burton?
Well, Diallo, just because more minutes.
I agree.
mean, yeah, Diallo. Tell me, okay, tell me your grade on Dort.
Oh man, my grade on Luguentz Dort. You know, I came into this thinking that I was kind of a tough grader, but I gave out some high grades to some people, and it starts with Luguentz Dort.
Let's hear it.
I gave Luguentz Dort an A+.
What? Man, A+ is the best of the best. It's 10 out of 10.
I mean, there is theoretically an A++.
He shot 30% from 3.
What?
30% from 3.
Dort?
Yes.
Yes, for the season. That is correct.
Yeah, that's what we're grading.
Well, yes. Yes, you are correct. He played, I believe, 29 games this year, but in his 21 games as a starter, and that was kind of how we closed the season, right?
Yes.
Because I think he started the last 21 games of the season, if I'm not correct, if I'm not mistaken.
Last 21?
I think so.
What? Really?
I don't think he started and then not started.
I thought... well, man, yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. That's crazy.
So in these 21 games, he's a starter, and I kind of just broke down the stats during that period, because there were games he played back in November or December when he was bouncing back and forth between the blue.
That's totally fair.
So in his 21 games as a starter, the Thunder went 16-5.
Let's go.
In that time, he shot 43% from the field, 36% from 3, and 87% from the foul line. Now, in fairness, we do have a small sample size, but he shot 56 threes in that period. Not a huge sample size, but not tiny.
Yeah.
You know, he shot 36%. That's respectable. Played fucking awesome defense.
Yes.
Fucking awesome.
Yep.
And he hit 49% of his 2-point shots. Really aggressive going to the rim. I loved it. So, yeah, I'm just really happy with Luguentz Dort.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your Dort report. But I totally agree. I mean, with everything you're saying, my thinking of how I graded him is sort of so it's not totally based off of my expectation of the player, but that is included, but it's also the impact to the team itself. So there's one player on the team that obviously receives an A+. Obviously receives an A+. I'm not going to say who yet because that would spoil it, but
it's likely that I gave that player an A+.
But and that's why I don't give Dort an A+, but a solid B. A solid B.
Solid B?
Yeah, solid B.
Yeah,
and
get the fuck out of here.
But
Luguentz Dort is currently a two-way player.
You know, you're right. And also
he went undrafted.
Totally. And that's why I think I'm not going solely off of expectation.
Apparently not.
But I mean, I'm giving him a B because he showed me that he was a real NBA player. And so once I had accepted that, now I am going to grade him like a real NBA player. And so I agree with everything you said, minus the grade. He is fearless, and he was everything we wanted from Ferg. Elite defense, fearless driving, he scores, he shoots the three better than Ferguson does. He's not shaped like him at all, which I don't know if that's even relevant, but the dude is a bulldog, and he's a badass, and he is a starter. He's a starter now, and I hope that we sign him.
And he's 20 years old.
And he's 20 motherfucking years old. Like I said, I agree with everything you're saying about him, but I am a little harder on my grading. My scale is a little tougher than yours, I believe.
Well, arguably, I think you saying you're grading him as a straight up NBA player is a bigger compliment to him than me saying he gets an A+ because he was a two-way guy.
Probably. I mean, because at some point, as a Thunder fan, you're like, is this guy a player? Like, we are still, and we're about to get into it, but we're still like that with Ferguson. We're like, is this guy even an NBA player? And he's been playing for us forever now. I mean, 3 years. But, like, he's been playing with us for way longer than Dort has, and Dort plays 21 or starts 21 games in a row for us. Maybe
over Ferguson directly.
Over Ferguson. And so let's just get to Ferguson. I'll start. Ferguson, Ferguson flunked out of school. And that's why Dort is starting over him. He flunked out. Dort took his place because Dort fucking rules. Now I feel bad because I actually love Ferguson because he's a Thunder player.
He's a Tulsa boy.
He's a Tulsa boy. He's just like me and Watson. We want Ferguson to succeed, but let me tell you, his perimeter defense all season was great. His perimeter defense was great, but everything else was pretty bad.
His offense was so bad that he nullified the benefit he delivered on defense.
That's exactly it. And normal Kyle and I were talking about Ferguson like a few weeks ago. We were like, okay, going back and forth with what we thought Ferguson, where he stood. And Kyle made a good point. He basically said like his offense is so bad, his defense doesn't matter. And you got to give it to the K, man. He's right. Just like you said, you guys are right. Ferguson's offense is so bad, his defense doesn't matter, and that's why having like someone like Dort is a blessing. That's all I'm going to say about that. What's your Ferguson grade?
I give Ferguson an F-.
F-. Damn. Damn, that is ruthless. That is bottom of the... I didn't think any F-s were going to be given out, but wow. All right, let's hear it.
I mean, that might not be fair. This might be because it is the tendency of basketball people in general to underrate defense. I mean, he did start for us.
You're
for
not a
most of
guy
the
that
year.
underrates defense, though.
That's true. I can't afford to underrate defense given how poorly I play offense when I play pickup.
And you still F-'d him.
I F-'d him so hard. He regressed on offense. He was worse on offense than he was as a rookie. And that's clearly true. Like, I don't think I have to convince you of that. His defense has been fine. Let's clear that off. Like you said.
Well, his perimeter D's been great.
His perimeter D's been good. He still doesn't get any love from the refs. Not his fault. But he doesn't get love from the refs. His on-off this year was minus 9.2 per 100 possessions.
Bad.
We got outscored by 9.2 points per 100 possessions, which is basically equivalent to a game, when he was on the floor this year.
It's not good.
And that was with him mostly starting and sharing the floor with great players like Gallo, SGA, and CP3. This year, Terrence Ferguson has less assists than Nerlens Noel.
I mean, what?
Ferguson has 45 assists. Nerlens has 53. Fucking Muscala has 34 assists, and he's only played 40% of the minutes that Ferguson has.
Oh, we'll get to the Moose.
And then here's where usage is really gonna come up big.
There it is.
Terrence Ferguson this year posted a 9% usage percentage. There have only been 3 players in the history of the Thunder franchise to post 9% or less. Can you name those 3 players?
Kyle Singler.
Nope.
Oh, man.
So just to clarify, usage percentage is the percent of possessions that you finish either by taking a shot or making an assist. So the average player would have something like 20,
Yeah.
right? But he did 9%.
Nader.
Nope.
Man.
So Ferguson's one of them. So there are only 2 other guys.
I don't know. Who?
Hashim Thabit.
I was going to say the beat.
Hashim Thabit in 2013-14 had a usage percentage of 9%. Andre Robertson posted 9%
yeah.
in 2014-15. And the only player to actually score less than Terrence Ferguson was also Andre Robertson with 8.6% in 2017-18, which was the year he got injured.
Yep.
I also saw some other notable guys when I was researching this stat. So
Are you about to give me a list of bad players?
it's a short list. So Hashim Thabit, when he posted that 9%, that was his last year in the league. Josh Hustis in 2017-18, 9.5%, his last year in the league.
You forget about Hustis.
Ronnie Brewer, okay, I messed this up. Ronnie Brewer is also lower. Ronnie Brewer posted an 8.6 usage percentage in 2012-2013. That was only in 14 games. The next season, Brewer played 24 games, and then he was out of the league. So basically what I'm saying is, with the exception of Andre Robertson, who played first-team All-NBA level defense, first-team All-Defense level defense, with the exception of that, all these other guys who played the same, posted the same usage percentage that Ferguson did this year, were out of the league within 24 games.
Oh man, that's pretty. That shows you the Thunder's dilemma with Ferguson. I mean, we are like totally bought in on him for some odd reason. I mean, it's sort of Dort's succession has showed us that that's not totally the case, but we were banking on Ferguson for a long time. But man, yeah, F's all around the board. Let's just say that.
And I'll just point out, like, when you have a low usage percentage, usually you're more efficient if you don't use many possessions. You know, like Nerlens Noel has a low usage percentage, relatively speaking, but he has a high effective field goal percentage because what does Nerlens Noel do? Just takes layups and dunks, right? But Ferguson hit 37% of his shots this year, 30% from three. He was awful, even with picking his spots.
You know, maybe I'm a little out of line for saying this, but Ferguson seems like a guy who gets in his own head because he's afraid of being worse. But when you get graded F-, it doesn't get worse than that. So what I'm saying...
What about F-?
Well, that, you know, if we have to make up a grade...
And we call him a poo-poo head.
Well, I did say that Diallo was doo-doo post-injury. So, I mean... But Ferguson, you can't get any lower. You can't get graded any lower. So don't get in your head anymore because you have officially hit rock bottom as far as basketball is concerned.
So let me ask you this. Ferguson, we have him under contract next year for $4 million, and then he's done.
He's done.
He's done. So, I mean, we probably swallow that next year and give him a few bench minutes, but then we're moving on, right? Or do we try to, like, throw him in if we trade someone this summer? We try to throw him in and get him off our books and get a new player in here. Because, right, like, what we want to see is we want to get more new players in, we want to give as many, like, wing guys a chance to succeed as possible so we can find those deals and find who's going to be, like, find the next Dort, right? And Ferguson is occupying a roster spot.
It's interesting because we optimize his the positive aspects of his game with our starting five, and we want his elite, you know, so-called perimeter defense to help us out in the starting five. But once the optimization is removed in the starting five, with the bench, we want players who are gonna actually, like, try to score, like
players who do stuff.
We don't have a Ferguson kind of player who comes off the bench, if that makes sense. And so what I'm saying is, after this season, he might be in trouble. Let's move on though.
Well,
okay.
I want to go back a little bit because I failed to bring this up at the time. With Burton, you know, we were not very kind to Burton. He's 26 years old. And next year, he has a team option for $1.6 million. Do we retain Deonte Burton next year, or do we let him go?
I don't know. That's okay. I'll say that I'm not gonna answer that because I don't really know what he does for us in practice, and I know that's kind of a dweeb answer, but maybe he brings some.
Not a game. We're talking about practice.
This guy might bring something to the court when it comes to practice, and he might be good for the team, might be good for the locker room. That I don't know. And
well, he's the only guy that got into a locker room altercation this year.
That's a good point.
His ass got suspended.
You know what? So no, because you brought that up, because I forgot about that. No retainment.
Team option.
No retention.
Team option to say no.
No. But you know who we should say yes to? Danilo Gallinari.
I was going to say yes in Italian, but I just realized I don't know. Oh wait, they say C in Italian.
I was going to say it's probably C.
I think it's C.
C sounds bueno.
Yeah. Our knowledge of Italian is just like, I hope it's the same as Spanish.
I can't remember who is supposed to give the grade first on this
I
one.
don't remember either.
Okay. Oh wait, no, it's you.
Okay.
Give me What do you got for Gallinari?
I gotta say, I have another A-. Oh, sorry, A+. I said the wrong thing.
Hey,
A plus.
so do I. So
for
do I.
Gallo.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, first
Yeah.
agreement.
A plus, baby.
Can I be honest for a second?
Yeah.
We actually agreed on Ferguson. I had him as an F initially too, but I changed him to an F minus because I thought it'd be funnier if I did.
Yeah. Hey, you brought it. I mean, I can't disagree with the minus.
Yeah, I'm not going to retroactively defend him having an F.
I just was thinking, the off chance that he catches wind, that some medium for Thunder basketball gave him an F minus, would crush him possibly. And so I was like, I'll spare.
You don't want that blood on your hands.
I exactly. Wash your hands, folks.
Yes. There are some really informative videos on YouTube about you gotta weave the fingers back and forth, and you gotta get your fingernails in the palms of your hands to get maximum coverage. Some of you've been doing it wrong.
Let me tell you, my hands think it's their birthday all the time. It's not your birthday, my hands.
Okay.
Give me your grade on Ginal.
I gave you my grade. It's A+.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
The only bad thing Danilo Gallinari didn't do this year, or the only bad thing he did do, was that he didn't get traded. And even that, I would say, is a blessing in disguise.
He played so well, he didn't get
loved
traded.
having him.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Check out this stat. Danilo Gallinari averaged 1.4 points per shot this year. For reference, LeBron averaged 1.3. Now, Harden averaged 1.5, but we know how he did that.
Yes.
Tons of free throws.
Mm-hmm.
Harden, without free throws, would actually be an inefficient player. But Gallo, I think, only averaged 4.8 free throw attempts per game, not 13 like Harden's doing.
Yeah.
Which means that Danilo Gallinari is not just an efficient scorer, he's efficient from the field.
Yes.
It's incredible. I mean, he shot 41% from three. He got to the line a decent amount, for a second
almost
or third
5
scorer.
a game.
Yeah. That's a good number.
And shot 88% at the line.
Yeah, which is awesome. I didn't do any research on this, but I bet that's top 5 all time in Thunder history. I know Durant had a year where he went 50, 40, 90. So there's at least one guy who had a higher free throw percentage for a season. But Gallo's got to be up there.
Well, Chris Paul has 90.
Shit.
But is one free throw attempt less than Gallo, I think. Which was damn.
Still, that's a great number.
That's great for both of them.
And I would say that Gallinari was an underrated part of this team's identity. I think this team
Agreed.
has had a really a fun element to it. They seem to enjoy playing with each other.
Yep.
There's genuine camaraderie there. There's genuine chemistry, and they're professionals. But there's also almost a boyish enjoyment in playing the game. And I think no one embodies boyish enjoyment more than 30-year-old Danilo Gallinari.
Yeah, man. I mean, he kind of just not only balls the fuck out, but looks sort of like a comic book character. And, you just gotta love that doughy face of his and 1,000-yard stare while he's putting up big numbers.
I should have said 31 years old.
But,
my
yeah,
bad.
man. I mean, I gave him an A+ as well. And I was gonna... I had this little thing here. So he's the only Thunder player who shot 40+% on threes, and also most three-point attempts was 7 by 2. So by the second most three-point attempts from Thunder players was
high efficiency, high volume.
Yeah, it was around 5, and also only other player who takes more threes than 2s other than Muscala. So
Interesting.
Yeah, he took around 7.3 threes per game, and then around 6 2s per game.
He's a guy that you can't ignore as a defender. You got to stay attached to Gallo. But he also leaves space for the other players to perform. Like, if there's any fault that we can find with Gallinari's play on the court this year, is that we would want him to take even more shots.
Yeah.
If your biggest problem is that we want you to shoot more, that's a good thing.
And also, he was a guy that I knew he was a good player, but I wasn't as pumped as I was when like Paul George came to the Thunder, and for good reason. And also, like, what I'm saying is he shot so well, and he, like, especially from three. And I was thinking, where else have I seen that from Thunder players? Well, like Paul George and Durant, obviously, but those players were expected to play like that. And so for him to come in and just ball out and shoot so beautifully, it was like, man, this is such a surprise, and then also such a gift. I wasn't prepared for this. So yeah, I agree with that grade, A+. And also, I was gonna say, maybe he could work on his. Like, I was like, why shouldn't I give him an A+? And I was like, maybe he could work on his 2-point game, because I was comparing his stats to other Thunder players. But all three, CP3, Shooter, and SGA, are all top 25 this season in 2-point game. And so it was
Mama
like, I'm not going to
likes that.
compare him to those guys. I'm sorry, top 25 in guards, not centers.
Right. Well, I mean, Gallo plays the 4.
Yes. Yes.
I thought about that too, about like what is a reason that you could give for knocking him down a peg. And I think the most obvious thing would probably be his defense. He is on net a minus defender, but I think he plays above his reputation on that end. I think he works hard. I think he's good with his feet, and I think he's an intelligent defender.
Yes, for sure.
And he rebounds well for his position. Defense is not done until you get the ball back.
Mm-hmm.
So rebounding, even if you're like a below average defender, if you rebound your position, I should say, then that can make up a lot of ground that you lose while the ball is on the floor as a defender.
Let me give you my grade on SGA. And I'm going to be quick with this one.
Whoa. I wanted to ask you.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a chance that Gallinari is the best Italian since Galileo?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I mean, you do have Sylvester Stallone, who has some descent there, and also made Rocky 4.
And Rocky, which won Best Picture?
Yeah, but in Rocky 4, we fought Russia, and it was during the Cold War, and so it was like, I don't know, it was like more significance,
Is that basically patriotism porn?
Yeah, I know, for sure. I think you can find it on the dark web.
Cool.
But yeah, no, to answer your question, probably.
So I'll point out for this comparison, Galileo discovered the 4 major moons of Jupiter: Io, Callisto, Europa, and Ganymede.
There you go.
So Galileo's specialty was these 4 balls. Gallinari's specialty is 3 balls.
Oh.
So therefore, 4 being more than 3, Galileo, bigger deal than Gallinari, but just by 1 ball. Just by 1 Lance Armstrong.
Sam Cassell, though, 2 giant balls.
Well, these are some of the biggest balls in the solar system, so that would be fair. Give me a grade for SGA.
A solid A.
I also have a solid A.
There we go. I'm going to guess that you have some stats for old Shea. And
I got a few stats, that's
so
for sure.
I'm going to be brief with mine here. SGA was everything that I wanted him to be and more. He is one of the best finishers I've ever seen. Innovative. I've never seen someone score the way that he does and like absolutely optimizes the length of his arms to make moves to like get the ball banking off the glass. I mean,
He's inventive, also like Galileo
yes. He
or
does
Michelangelo.
He really does stuff that I haven't seen any other players do, and it's crazy because it's 2020 and the league's been around for 7,000 years now, and so Shea is obviously going to score points. He was our leading scorer this year, but he also showed improvement across the board, including defense. We saw him get a little better, but one reason I didn't give him an A+ is because the defense does need improvement in a way that would be conducive for a team to make some big noise in the playoffs. Another reason is that he is streaky at times, and sometimes it might take a full game for him to recover. But the guy was in so many clutch situations this season as a second-year player and continued to be consistent and get us points. And so, solid A, SGA.
Yeah, I think that's all of that is totally accurate. I gave him an A as well, as mentioned. My only problem is that his name is weird.
Yes. Yeah.
Very weird. Shea. Like, if you look at that, it's spelled SHAI. That says shy.
That's supposed to be shy.
That sounds like a trailer park name, if you ask me.
Ooh. Well, ACAI is acai. And so why aren't we calling him Shy?
It's a great point. No, my only knock is also the inconsistent defense. But I must say, I think that the fact that you and I didn't give him A+ is a testament to the fact that he came in early and established how good a player he was, which we were surprised by. We were kind of taken aback. We knew he was supposed to be good. We'd heard that 538 projection that he was going to be a 5-time All-Star for his career, but we didn't know that. His rookie season, he played for a pretty decent team and averaged 10 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't have really all that reasonable an expectation of him being as good as he was. My knock on him is inconsistent defense. There were times when I saw a worrying lack of attention to like lack of awareness, like he didn't see rotations. It was either that or a lack of effort. It's hard to tell sometimes whether someone's not paying attention or whether they're not putting in the effort to act on what they recognize.
Yeah.
But I think his defense improved during the season. But what's really big to me, this is huge. His minutes increased by a third. He played 32% more minutes this year than he did last year. And what usually happens when you play more minutes? Your efficiency goes down, right?
Yeah.
You got a bigger workload. You got to take more shots. Efficiency goes down. But when his minutes went up by 32%, his usage increased by 30%. So he was taking more shots per minute and playing more minutes. And he still got more efficient. His effective field goal percentage was 0.02% higher.
There you go.
So basically consistent. But that's incredible. Taking on a bigger workload and getting better. His 3-point percentage dipped by 1.5 percentage points this year. That's the only thing that you can look at on kind of a raw numbers perspective and say, oh, well, he didn't get better in this area. But he did. Even though the percentage is lower, last year 3% of his threes were unassisted. So 90% were assisted, right?
Yep.
And those are the easiest threes. Those are the best threes, where someone sets you up and all you got to do is pump it in.
Klay Thompson 3.
Exactly. But this year, 45% of his threes were unassisted. That means 45% of his threes he made happen himself.
There you go.
And those are the hardest threes because when you're being guarded on the ball, you have a defender guarding you on ball. They're in your grill, right? They're not sagging off you to play help defense. It is so much harder to hit a three off the dribble than it is off the
For
catch.
sure. Well, and his shot release, it seems slow from a fan perspective. So that makes me think that
It's wonky.
there's something on the court that he's doing with his eyes that is fooling the defender, and it's giving him room to shoot a three, and it's giving him room to do crazy shit inside.
Do you think his eyes roll up in his head like in The Exorcist?
Like LeBron in Game 6.
What?
You know, the headband when there's
Game 6 of the 13 finals when his headband came off.
Yeah, remember that the infamous picture where his eyes are rolled back in his head.
I have not seen that.
You've seen this.
I have not, I swear.
Wow. I'll show you later.
Well, all that to say, SGA fucking killed it.
Yep. A. Solid A. Watson, what is your grade for the Moose Man, Mike Muscala?
I gave Mike Muscala a C.
Me too.
Wow, we're agreeing a lot here.
Hey, our last 3 grades have been the same. Technically, our last 5, if you really give Ferguson just a solid F.
Solid F. Mike Muscala, with his C, I would say he helped himself by perking up in a few games towards the end of the season.
Oh, they were perky.
I got perky from watching him.
Mm-hmm.
He shot 36% from 3, which is consistent with his career average during the season. And the more when I was thinking about his season this year, I realized he's not a poor man's Patrick Patterson. He's a middle class man's Patrick Patterson.
So he's Patrick Patterson.
He's a lower middle class man's Patrick Patterson.
Okay.
Because Patterson, what defines Patterson more than anything else? Inconsistency.
I mean, with us, it was just he was just there.
He was just taking up space.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
And that's what the Moose does when he's on the court. I'll say he hit some big threes this year. So did Patterson.
Yeah, this year.
Patterson, when he was on the team, is the context that I relied on your mental capabilities to infer. Patterson also hit some big threes in some moments, but he was ultimately, it felt like he was defined more by his unreliability than anything else. And Muscala, I feel the same way. Like, you think Muscala shooting big man. So when he comes in, because that's his identity, you expect him to knock down open threes. And there are a lot of times when he gets an open three and he just fucking clanks it. Like he's Carmelo Anthony or something.
Yeah, you're like, what? Where did that come from?
But in the end, he still shot 36%, which is above league average. And he contributed on defense in moments.
Yes. Yep. There were times
out there.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing replays of some big moments this season and thinking, oh, Muscala actually played some clutch defense right there.
But he's not part of the rotation.
No, not.
There's a rookie playing his position ahead of him.
Yes.
So that betokens.
And, because of that, I don't have a whole lot to say about the Moose. But I gave him a C as well. I took some notes here, surprisingly, and in all caps just said, wasn't terrible.
Not bad.
But here's the thing. He averaged 12 minutes a game, and he was 36% from 3 in those 12 minutes per game, and had 4 assists per game in those 12 minutes, which that's pretty good. Now, yes, he did play a lot of garbage minutes, and so, you know what? That's all I'm really going to say about Muscala.
Fair.
So, let's move on to old Abdul Nader, who I gave a C-.
Oh, wow.
And the reason...
I gave him a B+. Wow.
Well, that's surprising because I feel like throughout the season, I typically had more good things to say about Nader than you did. I found myself admiring Nader's positive qualities, but he also kind of looks like a comedian I really like, and so sometimes I think maybe I'm
You can't take him seriously?
well, no, maybe I'm just mistaking him for this guy. But anyways, C minus. I say Nader, he executes what he's able to, but his abilities are limited, and they will remain limited as far as I can tell. And there's not a lot to say there. When he's in and he does something well, it makes me happy. And this season, that did happen several times. The thing was, when he did perform well, it wasn't in crucial minutes, and I just don't believe that it could be sustained, and that's why I gave him the C minus. What about you?
Well, I mean, I may be giving him a higher grade than he deserves based on the fact that I feel like he's been okay of late. So call this a decency recency bias.
Okay, I like that.
But if you look at the numbers, he took a step up this year. We were expecting him to be trash. He was kind of trash last year, right?
Yep.
He was trash. But this year, he hit 46% from the field, 37% from three, and 77% from the free throw line, all of which are career highs. Even his assist-to-turnover ratio improved this year. It wasn't great, but it improved, and I believe it was a career high for him. And we all know that Nader is not a guy who shares the ball. So to see him improve in that area, it shows that, like, he's doing something.
Yes.
Also, here's a curious stat. He averaged 1 block per 36 minutes, which was 5th on the team.
Wow.
And I would say he was playing his best ball over the past 6 weeks. I think through the first few months of the season, it was kind of the same old Nader that we had last year.
Yeah.
But I think once he started getting consistent minutes and was part of the rotation, had moved definitively above Burton and probably Diallo, or maybe he was co-equal with Diallo. But once like his spot in the universe was kind of solidified, I think he started to deliver on a consistent basis. So I'm definitely grading on a curve because he was trash last season.
Right.
But I think he took a step forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the underlying thought I had while grading was that this guy will most likely not get playoff minutes. And
Accurate.
that might be unfair because we're giving regular season grades, but it's hard to shy away from that.
Well, playoff minutes are a reflection of your contribution during the regular season.
Yeah.
So that's totally fair.
So that's why I threw out the C minus, but you're right. He did have a better season than last season. And so I think you could justify giving him at least a C, if not a C plus. But let me, how about you tell me what you got for Noel?
Well, hold on. I just wanted to ask you.
Oh, yeah.
So Nader has a team option next year for $1.8 million. He'll be 27 when the season starts. And as we discussed, we want to use roster spots to get looks at as many guys as possible. I think it's fair to say, even though Nader took a step forward this year, his ceiling, if he hasn't hit his ceiling, it's not going to be much higher than this.
Right.
So do we move on from Nader in the offseason? Or do we keep him around for that team option at $1.8 million, which is cheap?
It would be unfair to say the same thing I said about Burton, or at least what I started to say, which is like, I don't really know his contribution in practice and in the locker room. And the Burton acting up in the locker room thing made me say, okay, well, get him out, sure. But
Nader's a chill guy.
Nader seems like a chill dude. He's an Egyptian. Let's keep him.
Plus, if he left, then we couldn't call him Terminator anymore.
Yeah, we don't have any Terminators after that.
And we couldn't say that he dunks like an Egyptian.
We also couldn't say Arnold Schwarzenegger.
My grade for Nerlens Noel was an A.
A
What was your grade?
B plus.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
Yes.
So Nerlens Noel actually leads the team in a number of statistics. He leads the team by a mile in effective field goal percentage, which was 69.
There you go.
He led the league in blocks per 36 minutes. Or not the league, sorry, the team. He blocked 2.9 shots per 36 minutes, which was double what the next guy did.
On the team.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the next guy was Steven Adams.
Damn.
So he blocked 2 times as many shots when he was on the floor as Steven Adams did. He led the team in dunks per 36 minutes. He had 3.7. The next guy was also Steve with 1.7.
Oh, wow.
So he had 2 more dunks,
He was the dunker.
which totally meets the eye test.
The Thunder dunker.
And check this out. This may be the most impressive thing, even as impressive as those last 3 things as three things are that I said. Nerlens Noel's defensive rating, according to BasketballReference.com, was 102 points per 100 possessions, meaning that if he plays 100 possessions, the opposite team is getting 102 points. The league's best defense this year is the Milwaukee Bucks, and they surrender 101.9 points per possession. So basically, when Nerlens Noel is on the floor, the Thunder defense is as good as the best defense in the NBA.
For sure.
Now, to be fair, a lot of times he's going up against bench units, so there's some distortion there. But he leads the team, he leads the Thunder in defensive rating, and I don't know what more you can say about the guy. He was awesome this year.
Yeah, I mean, his defense is a force, and his entire presence disrupts any offense. And we saw him get starting minutes or come in if Steve was hurt or something wonky was going on. But this was the best season of Noel's career, and he is a guy that a lot of teams would love to have.
Credit to Presti for picking him up after Noel left Dallas in a really ignominious way.
For sure. And also, I mean, the fact that we're getting the performance out of him for the price is unbelievable. It's ridiculous. And also, he shines with Chris Paul.
And Schroeder.
And he has figured it out with Dennis Schroeder. I mean, they have when they both started together, or when they were both on the Thunder together, it was like, oh man, Schroeder and Noel on the court together is troublesome for us. And now it's the opposite. It looks like it's meant to be, and I would love to keep Noel for the future. So yeah, B+. It was hard not to give him an A-, but I felt this was fair.
How about Chris Paul?
Chris Paul.
I almost called him Christopher Paul, but then I was like, am I sure his name is Christopher?
Yeah, we don't know. Whose turn is it to go first here?
I don't know, but I just asked you.
Okay, well, let me tell you, how do you not give Chris Paul an A+?
If you don't give Chris Paul an A+, what are A+s for?
Well, exactly. And that was initially what I was going off of.
I gave him a D.
Well, what the hell? That's what I was going off of. I was going to give Chris Paul an A+ and then go from there. And that's sort of what I did. And obviously when I got to Gallinari, gave him an A because CP3 was an A+, but then I was like, no, he deserves an A+. Anyways, Chris Paul came to this team after his stint with the Rockets, which is a depressing thing to think about, upon reflection. The Rockets were a 60-plus win team just a few years ago, were one hamstring injury away from beating the best team ever, maybe, and advancing to the Western Conference Finals. And people forget about Chris Paul and his elite performance because if you are a team that has been beat by CP3, then you kind of hate him because he's annoying. he's annoying. He yells at the refs after every play, and like he is going to do what it takes to make sure that your team gets the shaft. And it sucks, but when Chris Paul is on your team, it's beautiful. And all of that being said, I didn't see him coming into the season and just being a true leader among these this hodgepodge group of lovable guys. And he's just came. I mean, I'm not even going to talk about his play all that much because I know that you'll have some info for that. But he took everyone under his wing and not only made everyone love being on the team, it seems like, but also made them win. Like, we are this 50, like we were going to win 50 games. And
in all likelihood, yes.
No one expected that. No one expected that. And he could have so easily, and I know this is cliche at this point, but he could have so easily not have owned his optimal status for this team. But he did. And he said, you know what? I'm a superstar. I've been around for a while. I'm going to take this team and we're going to make a run. And that's exactly what he did. So A+ Chris Paul, we love you, Thunder fans.
Right. We started off this season thinking that Chris Paul wasn't going to play a single game for us. We thought he was going to be traded. And some people, I was not among them, were hopeful that he would not play for the Thunder because they hated him. Chris Paul...
That's true. I forget about that. That is true.
Chris Paul played in 63 games this year, which is the most that he's played since 2016. Chris Paul played in every game this season for the Thunder, except for the game immediately after Kobe Bryant died, because it was too emotional, which is awesome. Chris Paul was a badass in the All-Star game. He's a good-ass leader, and he showed his ass in the ESPN body issue.
Yes.
He's the most clutch player in the NBA this season. We saw that he had the respect from other players for that by the fact that he closed the All-Star game despite not being a starter for his squad. Oklahoma City went 14-2 in their last 16 games decided by 5 points or less, and it's because of Chris Paul.
Yep.
He had the third highest field goal percentage of his career.
Damn.
A long and storied multi-All-Star game career. He shot 49% from the field this year, which is difficult to do on high volume, especially when a lot of your shots are threes. He hit 52% of his mid-range shots, defined as 10 feet to 3-point range,
which I believe is like top 10 for guards
in
the league.
Oh yeah. 45% of his shots came from this area, from this mid-range area. And you know why? Because that is the area the NBA defenses today are allowing you to take shots.
Yeah.
You know, with the whole Morey ball thing, it's got to be layups and three-pointers, right? So defenses are purposefully allowing long 2-point shots. But there was that NBA.com piece several weeks ago where Chris Paul was saying explicitly, yeah, defenses are giving this up, and I love it. Because I'll just look at what they're playing. If they're dropping the big man, then that means no one's going to confront me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just take the mid-range shot, and I'll drain it.
Yeah, and it's worked for us so many times.
If Chris Paul shot a mid-range jump shot on every single possession, we would have one of the best offenses in the NBA.
I don't know how many times we were down like 5 points with around 2 minutes to go, and it's like, what are we going to do here? And that's what you saw. A Chris Paul, like, 12-foot mid-range shot. And it was like, and it just, there was no doubt it was not going in.
You can't stop it. So Chris Paul, A+.
A+.
In fact, if I had been drunk enough when I made these rankings, I would have given him an A++.
What? Another made-up ranking. But he deserves it, damn it. Hey, what's your grade for Dennis Schroeder?
You're going to see that I was very generous when I made this. I also gave Dennis Schroeder an A+.
Hey.
I gave 4 A+.
One of them Dort.
Yes. Like I said, I came into this thinking, oh, I'm critical. I'll be a hard grader. But then I gave it up like
Yeah. I
like
sort of
a virgin on prom night.
There you go. Well, I did the opposite. I was like, I like Nader. Like I love Nader for some reason. I'm like, yeah, well, let's go. But I gave harsher grades.
You were a hard grader on Nader.
I was a hard grader on Nader.
So what was your grade for Schroeder?
A.
Okay.
Solid A.
Okay, so I feel justified. What was your thinking behind that A?
Okay, well, you could ask why not A+. Well, the initial reasoning is because he's not Chris Paul. But I'm just going to talk about the good things here for a second. Schroeder's the 6th man of the year. And if anyone else were to get it, if they even do these awards anymore, I don't know how the season's going to unfold.
If someone else wins 6th man of the year, we should riot in the streets with a 6-foot space between all of us just to prevent infection.
Yes, with guns.
With guns.
With guns. I gave him an A because the dude gets buckets. And a reason why he's not A+ is because his style of play has negative effects when it doesn't work. When his style, and we've said this even in the when he was running our bench last year, that was sort of the case. It was like, well, our bench looks really good when Schroeder's making these jump shots. But when it's not working, it's really rough, and our bench is awful. And this season, it's the same thing, except it's working all season, baby. Schroeder is not missing shots. And I also don't want to discredit other things he has improved on, like turnovers, I would assume. I didn't even look at the stats, but probably turnovers, and I think he is a better passer. And also 3-point shooting. He is very consistent. And so the guy's just not missing, and it's been consistent all season. So solid A, Dennis Schroeder.
So the reason I went A+, maybe I should have gone A, but Schroeder's been in the league for a while. He's an established player. Players don't improve much year over year after, they've been in the league 3 or 4 years. Usually they're rookie, they improve a lot their second year, they improve a little bit their third year, and by their 4th year, they're on I'm improving 1, 2, 3% per year going on forward. Players rarely make a leap year to year after their 3rd or 4th year. But Schroeder, I think, was so much better this year than last. Last year, we got frustrated with him a lot.
Yep.
He was inconsistent. He got buckets, but you couldn't count on him game to game. But he's been great this year, and he improved his trade value a lot. A lot. Dennis Schroeder is worth the first-round pick today. Probably, maybe top 10, top 15 protected first-round pick.
Oh, absolutely.
That would not have been the case at the beginning of the year. He had some great flashbulb moments. I mean, the season ended with that game that we ripped out of the Celtics' clutches with that steal that he had.
Yes.
That basically won us the game. And he had that tying layup against the Timberwolves on the Hail Mary pass from Steven Adams.
Some big moments.
Big-ass moments.
In fact, probably the 2 biggest plays of the season for the Thunder.
Yeah, I mean, those swung entire games. And I'm glad you brought up the 3-point shooting. He had a career high in 3-point shooting this year, 38.1%, which is a full 3 points higher than his old career high. Coming into this season, if you were going to say that Dennis Schroeder has an Achilles heel, you would have brought up 2 things: defense and 3-point shooting. Because he's historically been a below-average 3-point shooter. But this year, he was an elite 3-point shooter.
Mm-hmm.
And he bumped up his commitment on defense. He had high energy. He straight up pestered and molested ball handlers out there.
Uncle Fester.
I'm not going to say he was all world on defense. Obviously, he's got limitations due to his size. He only weighs 175 pounds. So he's never going to be Lou against Dort or Andre Robertson or even Terrence Ferguson out there. But he did his job.
Yes.
Which is what Bill Belichick wants you to do.
Yep.
Also, last thing, he had a career high in effective field goal percentage while having a usage rate comparable to back when he was the only good player on those bad Atlanta teams. That's an achievement.
Schroeder for mayor.
Well, that's the last stop on the bus today. You can find us on all the major podcast apps, plus we're on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitter at thunder_bus_pod. Until next time, thanks for riding the bus this week, and wash your hands.